in terms of Russell Wilson, I understand what the goal was. I understand when you get a player like Russell Wilson with the history that Russell Wilson has, and you give up as much that you give up, I understand what the goal is. The goal is high. The goal is essentially you being in the best position to compete for a Super Bowl. You being in the best position to compete amongst the top ranked teams. Because you expect to get a top ranked player, a player that has won a Super Bowl, that's been to essentially 2 Super Bowls. But anyone from here to Denver can see that the relationship between the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson should be officially over. Now, I've talked ad nauseum about how I feel about Russell Wilson, how I feel his tenure has gone in Denver, how I feel his tenure has gone in Denver with Sean Payton. I've talked about that ad nauseum. So I'm not going to rehash things, but what I will talk about is what do I think should be next for Russell Wilson, or what marriage do I think would benefit Russell Wilson most in the sports world, in the football world? Because while I don't think that when the deal was first made, obviously I don't think made 2 years in, a divorce would be this imminent, or divorce would look this bad. But it is bad, and we are here. The question that you have to ask yourself, and the question that needs to be answered, is can Russell Wilson still play? And I don't mean play just, obviously he can still throw the ball. I mean, that hasn't left. But should Russell Wilson still be viewed as a player that can be a missing piece for a franchise, or be a quarterback that can get you to heights that you essentially are not at without him? I look at last year, or the end of this season, and Russell Wilson statistically was one of the best quarterbacks in football. That doesn't essentially mean that I would pick Russell Wilson over the likes of Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen. But I do think that Russell Wilson is still a top tier quarterback. The thing about football that a lot of people overlook when they're discussing a single player is, especially when you're a quarterback, while yes, you can be as great as you can be, you still need help. The reason why they say football is the ultimate team sport is because it doesn't matter how great you are in a certain instance, because if you don't have greatness around you, if you don't have solid pieces around you, you are at a disadvantage. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus, but look at, maybe by name, the pieces that were around Russell Wilson in Denver by name were good, but look at their play on the field. Now, I'm not absolving Russell Wilson of anything. Russell Wilson was not good, especially a lot that first year. But you also, again, have to look at what was around him. But again, I'm not going to go down that road. What I will say is this. I look at the landscape of the NFL, and I look at the teams that are in desperate need of a quarterback. Now, there are multiple teams that obviously need a quarterback, but there aren't too many teams that are a quarterback away that will take them from one tier, I guess, to another tier. And what I mean by that is, let's look at let's look at the Washington Commanders. Currently constructed. Now, yes, I understand they have a bunch of cap space. They have the number 2 overall pick. But currently constructed, right now, you put Patrick Mahomes on that team, they don't go from, bottom of the barrel team to a Super Bowl contender. They go from bottom of the barrel team to maybe a fringe playoff team, but they don't go from worst to best. It is universal that Patrick Mahomes is the best player in football. But what I'm saying is there is a team, like let's say we put Patrick Mahomes on, let's say you put Patrick Mahomes on the LA Chargers. To me, they go from where they are to a Super Bowl contender, in my opinion. Could be wrong. That's my opinion. So what I'm saying is, yes, there are teams that need a quarterback, but there aren't a lot of teams that is a quarterback away. And for Russell Wilson, I think that Russell Wilson is still in that realm of he is good enough to be that quarterback that you can look at and say, oh, we're just a quarterback away. I understand that it was ugly in Denver. But I'm also looking at what we saw last year. And I'm looking at the fact of, so where do I think the perfect marriage for Russell Wilson is? I understand that, especially when we talk about quarterbacks, it's a lot deeper than just where you should or should not go, because contracts play a part. And I understand that it's very difficult for a team to tackle the contract that Russell Wilson was given by Denver. Now, you are hearing Russell Wilson say that he is willing to take a vet's minimum, which doesn't really affect any team as far as cap space. And again, I will preface this by saying I do think that Russell Wilson is still one of those quarterbacks that can be that missing piece for a Super Bowl caliber team. But I will say this. Russell Wilson is in that category now. And that is something that I have learned and seen in Denver. Russell Wilson is in that category. While he is still has an opportunity to be great, I think he is in that category that almost everything has to be right around him. Whether it means you have to have a good offensive line, you have to have good pieces, you have to have a good weapons on the outside. Like, Russell Wilson is in that boat now. Now, I think that he is one of the better quarterbacks in that boat, but Russell Wilson is indeed in that boat. And that also narrows the path down a little bit. Which team that needs a quarterback that has almost everything good outside of the quarterback? To me, the answer is clear as day. I think Russell Wilson would be perfect for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Look at the success of Russell Wilson when he was in Seattle. Those Super Bowl teams, what did those teams and the Pittsburgh Steelers had in common? Well, they had a legendary coach, Pete Carroll, Mike Tomlin. They had a very good offensive line. While the offensive line isn't great for Pittsburgh, it's better than what it was in Denver. Now, no, I don't think that this Pittsburgh defense is the Legion of Boom. I'm not going to go that far. But what I will say is this Pittsburgh defense does have TJ Watt, does have Joey Porter Jr., does have Minka Fitzpatrick. It has really good pieces, great pieces. You had an exceptional running back in Marshawn Lynch. Well, no, I'm not saying that Najee Harris is Marshawn Lynch. He is a very capable, very good running back. You know why Pittsburgh fans have been so upset these last, 2 years? It's because they know that they kind of suffer from the Chargers, not Chargers, from what the Jets were suffering from these last 2 years. And the Jets feel like they are a quarterback away. And I essentially do agree. I don't know if at this point of his career if Aaron Rodgers is that quarterback, but I do essentially agree that they are pretty much a quarterback. Or they have a great defense. They have really good pieces on the offensive side of the ball. They just need to get that offensive line together and see what goes on, see what happens with Aaron Rodgers. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, we know about the history and the lineage. They're used to winning. They have been spoiled with winning. And it's tough. I can imagine. I'm a fan of a team that their winning days ended when I was a child. So I'm not used to. I understand the extensive history of Washington, but I'm not used to them being Super Bowl caliber teams. Pittsburgh Steelers. People that were born in 1990s and they understand. They've seen a Super Bowl. So when you trot out someone like a Kenny Pickett or someone like a Mason Rudolph or someone like a Mitch Trubisky, especially after the long lineage of Ben Roethlisberger, I understand that it's going to be tough. But I think Russell Wilson would be perfect. You have pieces like George Pickens. You have pieces like Deontay Johnson. You have Pat Freiermuth. They have a squad. They just need that quarterback to glue it all together. Now, I will say this, though. And this is where I'm looking solely at Russell Wilson. Personality and likability matters most at the quarterback position than any other position in football. More than likely, the quarterback is usually the most paid, or the highest paid, is usually the most covered, is usually the most seen. A lot of times, the quarterback is the captain of the, at least, offense. Excuse me. So it's very important to be likable, and it's very important to be respected by your teammates. I don't know Russell Wilson personally, obviously. But what I do know is what I've heard from former teammates. And it hasn't been the most glowing review of Russell Wilson's personality when discussing how it is to play with Russell Wilson. And I think that's one thing that has derailed this whole Denver-Russell Wilson marriage. I'm not going to say this is a wake-up call or whatever, but what I will say is maybe, I mean, when you get paid as much as Russell Wilson has been paid in his career, and you're willing to take the vets minimum, maybe that is a sign of saying, hey, I understand where I am, and I understand this would be the best for me. But you, if and when Russell Wilson does get another opportunity, again, I don't know. I'm just going off of what I've heard by a litany of former teammates. You have to be better, and you have to be a better leader as far as personality wise. Oh man, you stayed to the end of the video. I appreciate you. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss any content from your boy. You can also go back and watch past episodes, past clips, and don't forget that the Unpopular Podcast new episodes drop every Wednesday and Saturday. Appreciate you.